Thank you very much for being so prompt. I like to start on time because I know everybody's time is valuable. We do not have so much time. And I do think that this exciting event is well worth spending time with. It's been put together in teamwork by the Swedish FAO Committee, the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, the FAO Office for Innovation, Sweden, Kenya, the Swedish International Agriculture Network Initiative, Axe Foundation, and We Affect. I am Cecilia Nordin from Gansberg, and I have the honor of being the moderator today. I have spent a lot of time here as a Swedish Perm Rep, but now I'd like to hand over to another former Perm Rep, Mr. Fredrik Alfer, who is now Head of Department at the Ministry for Rural Development and Infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Yes, you handed over the baton as Perm Rep, and now you're handing over the floor. That's excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, my name is Fredrik Alfer. I'm Deputy Director General for EU and International Affairs in the Ministry for Rural Affairs and Infrastructure. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this side event on the theme Looping into Tomorrow's Food Systems, Innovative Circular Bioeconomy as a Path to Building Resilient Food Systems. We have a number of interesting speakers and presentations lined up, so I'll have a very short introduction, and I'll just take the opportunity to acknowledge all the co-organizers. Cecilia mentioned them. It's been a great teamwork, and I'm very happy that we have the chance here at CFS to showcase the importance of bioeconomy and how it can contribute to a resilient food system. The bioeconomy sector is very significant for Sweden, and we see it as a key, not only in today's society, but also for addressing future challenges as part of the green transition. Thus, we're very much welcome that bioeconomy is gaining importance on multilateral agendas. And as topical as ever at FAO, we're a new group of friends on bioeconomy for sustainable food and agriculture was launched, I think last week. So that's, things are happening. I'll also take the opportunity to highlight the latest publication of the Swedish FAO Committee. This one, entitled Innovation and Drivers for Circularity and Bioeconomy. And much like our event here today, the publication gathers a number of perspectives and examples of work within the bioeconomy sector, ranging from fisheries to forestry to agriculture. And it includes examples both from our domestic efforts in Sweden as well as from international development cooperation. And please feel free to take a copy when you leave. With that, I wish you a very interesting event.
Thank you very much, Fredrik. Perfect timekeeping. And now let's get into the meat of the matter. We will first listen to Professor Björn Winnerås from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. His field is environmental engineering with a focus on developing technologies to recycle plant nutrients from the city back to the agricultural fields in an efficient and safe way. He does this within three main areas: hygienization to prevent the spread of infection, the use of waste for production of protein-rich animal feed, and source separating sanitation, which I have seen myself at SLU. An important ambition is that his research will lead to solutions that can be applied in practice. Björn, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, so I would like to start with this that I assume all of you have seen before, with the planetary boundaries and looking at sort of different sort of matters. That is sort of the climate change is one factor that is important, but if we look sort of at 6 o'clock down in the picture, we also see the biogeochemical flows, and there we see the flows of nitrogen and phosphorus. They are quite sort of combined with the climate change as well, especially the production of nitrogen and also the reduction of nitrogen in the environment that is affecting the climate change. And when we look at this problem and then attach it sort of to current food systems where we have a very linear system. And connecting to one of the areas that I'm working with, it's sort of the hygiene aspect has been sort of the dominating management of waste and wastewater, and creating a linear flow, because we are making sure that we are not circling pathogens back into agriculture, into food production. But that has also led to that all other materials also having a linear flow, which leads to that we have reached sort of a pollution of the environment. And if we sort of look at the numbers here, 1/3 of the nutrients that we put onto the fields actually ends up in the toilet. And that is because 1/3 of the, sort of more or less, or more than 1/3, but of the nutrients we find in the food that we are consuming. And as we have a mass balance over our body, it comes out again. And the same is for the food waste. Approximately 1/10 of the nutrient input actually ends up in the food waste. So it's two factors that we are just putting onto the fields, and then we have a very nice consumption, but then it goes out into an environment in the most cases. Because if we look in a global perspective, it's only 10% of the wastewater that is treated in an advanced way. The remaining is minimal treatment or no treatment, which has a major effect on the environment. So we have to sort of put a stop to this emission to the aquatic system. And what happens why we need to sort of stop the pollution is this problems you can see on the picture here from the Baltic Sea, where we have sort of, it's not only the land that is green, it's also the Baltic during the summer, that we have a lot of algae growth based on nutrient emissions into the ocean or the sea. But we also have a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and I have to say that even if the Baltic is sort of a very symbolic and we can really see it, we have this problem with anoxic areas in most of our oceans, especially close to bigger cities, because we have so high emissions. And this leads to larger treatment systems, increased treatment, increased costs, which also means that it's a big challenge for many countries to actually have a proper treatment. And what we are focusing on is to neutralize the problem. So we are trying to remove sort of the material from the sewer or from the water, but we are not looking into what should we do with it. So we put sort of a lot of energy in to capture nitrogen from the atmosphere, and then when we come to the sewage treatment plant, we put a lot of energy in once again to put the nitrogen back into the atmosphere. But doing it, we can do it differently. So if we actually close the loop and take the nitrogen instead of putting it back into the atmosphere and use sort of the natural process in the environment and then taking it back with Haber-Bosch process, we could actually use the reactive nitrogen we already have in our sewers and put it back into agriculture as a resource. And if we look at this sort of when we have mapped the use of chemical fertilizers and sort of run it in parallel with the FAO statistics of protein consumption, we see that on average globally we can replace 1/3 of the, as sort of, you had the other side, sort of that of the food comes out into the sewer. But we can also replace it if we take the nutrients from the excreta, we could actually replace 1/3 of the chemical fertilizers that we are using in agriculture today. And this is also an important part, especially in poor countries, but also when we talk about resilience. A country like Sweden that has no fertilizer production, then we suddenly can have 1/3 of our fertilizer that we are using can actually be produced locally in Sweden. But to reach this circularity, it's very important to develop products that is attractive for the farmer, so that the farmer can use. Today we talk sometimes, it's a lot of discussion about sewage sludge, but actually the wastewater treatment plant has to pay the farmer to actually apply the sewage sludge onto the fields. That is not attractive for a farmer. I mean, it's sort of, okay, I get some nutrients, but that's the only way. But you have to have a product that is concentrated, you have to have something that fits into existing agriculture, the implements, you can use the implements. And I will show you this sort of, if you want to look closer to it. This is the urine from one person in one day. That is actually as a solid fertilizer that you can put into your implements in agriculture and use as a chemical fertilizer and replace sort of the imported chemical fertilizer straight off. But it's also the important of sort of this, what is the actual cost? Because circularity is always more expensive. I mean, having one super big Haber-Bosch nitrogen fixation plant, it's expensive to build, but if we want to collect sort of all these nutrients from every person, we have to be in every home and do the collection, which means it will be more expensive. But I just have this sort of value of urine as one example. If we look at 1 ton of urine, which is actually the urine from 2 persons in 1 year, approximately. The value is 50 euro, which is very small. But as a resource, if we say the fertilizer value of the urine is only 13 euro, but the treatment cost to remove the nitrogen and the phosphorus is actually 37 euros. So the cost of sort of avoided pollution is much bigger. But that is also much harder to tap onto to finance actually the collection and so on, that is more expensive. And then we have sort of the final words that I would say is sort of this also, what is the value of having local fertilizer production? I mean, it's not sort of that you can say it's worth 3 euros to be able to produce my own fertilizer or to be able to swim in this lake. What is the value? I don't pay anything for it. But the cost of having a clean water environment is super high. And therefore, it's really also that we have to sort of find the ways of balancing this. We have to develop the technology, but we also have to develop sort of the flow of the cost and who is paying for it. Because we have to tap, as we have to tap into every person to actually collect the nutrients, we also have to tap into several sources to collect the funding for it to actually make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I do think you have opened at least my eyes to, we need to think about the figures here. 1 ton for a year, that really shook me. And something that one thing that we might discuss later, because we all wanted to see as much effect of what we do. And I've heard that if you put urine around or on your land, it will keep wild animals away as well. I don't know, maybe that could be one thing to look at as well. Now we will have the pleasure of listening to Dr. Beatrice Tui, who is an agriculture attaché with the Kenyan Embassy here in Rome. She's an agriculture extensionist. She's got vast experience in capacity building farmers and staff on livestock technologies across all livestock species. So she really knows what can be done on the field level. Please go ahead, Doctor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you for having me in this side event. I'll speak to what Kenya is doing in bioeconomy at both at research level, at farmer level, and also at national level. And I'll begin by saying that when I think about bioeconomy, I think about utilizing biological resources for sustainable food systems. And the reason why we need to think about transformation of food systems is because of the climate change effects. Kenya has gone through multiple seasons of drought, and therefore the food system has to change so that it is resilient and so that Kenya can bounce back and also bounce forward in in their food system development. And the initial, no, the primary policy that guides circular economy and bioeconomy in Kenya is the National Strategy for Agroecology to Transform the Food System. And in that strategy, Kenya focuses on three main issues: sustainable diets, and also research and innovation as core pillars of transforming the food system, and focus now on bioeconomy and circular economy. And when we talk about bioeconomy and circular economy, then immediately we think about environment and how to change the farmer practices, and also at the same time, how we can incorporate science and technology and innovation to build the bioeconomy. So I'll just give examples of projects that are going on in Kenya on matters bioeconomy and circular economy. And the first one is on, which is really gaining traction, is the use of the black soldier fly to manage urban waste, and also the black soldier fly as a source of animal feed. And the reason why that project is gaining traction is because for a project or for an intervention to be sustainable, the enterprise has to be profitable for the farmer, and it also has to be environmentally sustainable in terms of resources. So for the black soldier fly, it is a very good innovation to manage urban waste. And urban waste is not expensive, as in it is considered waste, but now useful in terms of making the environment clean, and also using that larvae for the farmers to produce, using the larvae as animal feed is very attractive to the farmers, because of course we know 70% of cost of especially animal production like poultry production is on feeds. And so if you can bring it down by having a product that is a bit sustainable or a bit cheaper, then it will be attractive to the farmers. So that project is gaining traction in Kenya, and it is something that is also sustainable because the youth and the women are able to participate in it. So when we look at circular economy, that is a very good example of a product that can be used for sustainable diets and also for a resilient environment. Second, I would want to speak about land restoration and landscape restoration in Kenya, and the projects that have also gone into that. As we know, the larger part of Kenya is semi-arid lands, and the pastoralists, so the people who live in those areas, have survived due to their own indigenous knowledge systems of managing their environment. And so when we come to now doing land restoration and resilience in those areas, we now have to tap into their knowledge systems or the indigenous knowledge systems. And how we are doing this is with partners or projects, like IUCN did a project on land restoration or landscape restoration, and they do it by involving the local pastoralists in pastoralist field schools. And then in that setup, they are able to interact with researchers, they can be able to interact with science, and then they come up with, they are able to identify which tree species or plant species are able to grow in their areas. And then now with partners or scientists, they are able to use technologies such as the half moons to be able to grow those seeds they've selected. And in so doing, we are able to see a wide range of area restored, because the species that are grown there are acceptable to the community, and the scientists are also able to validate those tree species. And with the science of the half moons, then you find that the landscape is well restored. And so in working in such a scenario of transdisciplinary research, then we are able to fast track the environment. And then we also have, we are able to fast track the environment, and we also have projects that don't use the farmers field school, like the Swedish project uses livestock cafes. It is still the same concept of involving research, scientists, and the local farmers for their indigenous knowledge systems. So we really focus when we are looking at bioeconomy, we really need to emphasize on transdisciplinary research, or transdisciplinary approach to be able to get those kind of successes. Let me stop there, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Very interesting, and I'm glad to see that you both, our first speakers, were very firm on the importance of keeping the farmer at the center, and that it must be useful for them. We will now go to something very interesting. If you've had a chance to look at the FAO Museum, you might have admired the fantastic handbags there already. But we will now listen to FAO Innovation Support, Fish Waste to Fashion, from Barbara de la Rovere, and she works as an FAO Engagement and Outreach Coordinator in the Office of Innovation. And she puts to good use her entrepreneurial and communication skills by developing global strategies. Please go ahead.
Okay, hope you can hear me. So first of all, I'm talking on behalf of my director, Vincent Martin. So if you know him, sorry to disappoint you, because I know he's very cool and charismatic. I'm less cool and less charismatic, but I'll try my best to keep you entertained. So I will walk through. I know there are some colleagues in the room, and you might know the Office of Innovation, but I mean, for the, let's call it, I mean, for the other colleagues coming to CFS, they don't, and it's important just to give you an overview what we do, and Vincent told me specifically to explain you what we do. So it's very important that I do. So there is Vincent, for the ones who don't know him. So the Office of Innovation is quite a new office in FAO. We were created in 2019 under the mandate of this Director General. And many people may think that we are the ones creating innovation in FAO, but we do that as well, but that's not our main vision and mission. So Vincent, when he came in 2022, he made sure we had a mission vision, and our mission is actually being enablers of innovation in FAO. And together with that, we had our science and strategy, science innovation strategy that you can see in the FAO library. And that's where bioeconomy comes. So why does it matter for us in the office? For us, bioeconomy connects innovation, economic opportunity, and food security, all the subjects that we work. Plus, it helps us to connect FAO, our partners, together with farmers, policymakers, and all the stakeholders we want to work to design a new pathway for a more nature-based future, right? And how do we enable that? We have a program called Elevate. Elevate is actually the FAO incubator, and it opens a call every year internally to FAO because we consider our colleagues, they have great ideas, but those great ideas are not always funded. So we have a very modest fund that we share, it's a seed fund that we share for the 10 awardees. We usually receive more than 100 applications, and you might figure that half of those are on bioeconomy. So we have had projects that I'm not gonna talk about, black soldier flies, we have had it. We had bioplastics, a very cute one, pesticides control with ladybug. I thought that was really, really cute and interesting. And we had one project that is very dear to me, and that's why I am here, because I was the mentor of this project, which is called Fish Waste to Fashion. And we work with the Cabo Verdean government on that. So Cabo Verde is a small island, and as an island, you might imagine that fisheries plays a very important role. So it contributes to 2% of their GDP, and they have around 38,000 tons of fish caught annually. Culturally in Cabo Verde, and I can relate to that. I'm Brazilian, so where I come from, we eat fish deep fried and we eat everything. We just throw the bones away, right? But there's a part of Cabo Verde that don't eat those skins, and those are the frozen fish fillet companies, the exports. And we wanted to tackle this problem because they were having huge problems with waste management. Together with that, if we have any Fishers colleagues here in the room, they will agree with me. Women play a very ungrateful role in those communities because they usually work for free, especially if we're talking about small scale fishers, that is a very familiar structure, right? And women work in the after catch for free, cleaning the fish or selling them in the market. We want to give opportunity to those communities, and we wanted to work with women. It seems very fast, but because it's for the sake of time, I have 10 minutes. But you might imagine that putting this project together, we had to do an assessments, thousands of meetings that we love in FAO, right? Everybody knows we decide our lives on meetings. So it took a long time. It took the 1 year, actually, because Elevate, the program that enabled this project, has these characteristics that you need to solve your problem in 1 year. And it's okay if you don't solve two, because as an innovator mindset, we believe that, failing is also learning. So some projects also fail. This one was kind of successful because the women were very engaged. We managed to make a partnership with one of those frozen fish fillet companies, funded by 2 women from the fisherfolk communities. They opened that in 2017, and they were looking for a way to tackle this waste problem. So they gave us a space, because a fish leather tannery requires very few space. It can even be done without electricity. So they gave us a space in their company where we settled the tannery, And a long, long time ago, I have worked on a similar project with University of Paraná in the south of Brazil. And there was the fisher, the biologist technician that I invited from Brazil to train the women in Cabo Verde. So we had no language barrier problems. The women were very engaged. We produced a very beautiful material. And after that, we also invited the local artisans to join the training because they would be the first clients of this new material that was being produced. The success of this project is that the government of Cabo Verde saw value in that. And as I mentioned, after 1 year, the project is done, the seed funding has to be committed, and they closed the cycle, but now they have the support of the government that are still training more women. And us, from our side, we are thinking about replicating this project in another small island, using the women in Cabo Verde as enabler, as knowledge shared of this project. I forgot to mention that this project was proposed by the FAO Office of Climate Change and the FAO Office in Cabo Verde. And I mean, I couldn't go further. There's a lot to tell, so I'm happy to connect with you. And before I leave, if you scan this QR code, we wrote a brief, the Office of Innovation, the Office of Climate Change, we wrote a brief on sustainable fibers where you can learn more about the fish leather and also about our next project, which is banana fiber, but that will be for another event. Thank you very much.
Well, we very much look forward to having you back. And I was just wondering, could we circulate this in the room?
So we have some materials to circulate so you can feel. And I guarantee, no, it's not smelly at all.
So this is where you heard it first. It might be on the catwalk in Paris very soon.
If I may, we were actually Milano Fashion Week this year with those materials, so we were very proud of that.
So it's the thing to get in at the ground level, invest. Thank you very much. We will move into a part of this seminar that the makers of the seminar has called panelist presentations. Don't know really what the difference is, but it become clear. We will now move into empowering women and youth, which I feel, isn't it terrible that we still have to think about this? But we do, even today. And turning waste into impact. And we have Maria Tadesse with us, and she's committed to human rights and ending poverty, because unfortunately she has experiences from the Ethiopian famine in the 1980s. But now she is the head of business development at We Effect, and she drives organizational growth and innovation in support of the mission to create a fair and sustainable world. Maria, you have the floor.
That was a nice introduction. Thank you, Cecilia. And good afternoon, everyone. I will start by presenting my organization, and then I will present a project that we work with in bioeconomy that has already been presented somehow. But first, so my organization is We Effect. It is a Swedish development organization founded in 1958 by the Swedish cooperative movement, which means that we are owned by organizations like the National Federations of Farmers in Sweden. They are our owners and founding members. Today, we are one of the world's largest cooperative development organizations. Our mission is simple but powerful: to enable people living in poverty to improve their living conditions, defend their rights, and contribute to a just society. We Effect applies a rights-based approach. This means that our projects are planned in dialogue with our partner organizations and implemented by them with support from WeEffect. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I will describe how WeEffect works with circular bioeconomy innovations to solve real problems and build a more resilient food system. One inspiring example is the Waste for Cash project in Kenya, where local markets produce large amounts of waste. We've heard that. When this waste is not managed, it causes serious health and environmental problems. Flies, pests, rats gather around large waste piles, spreading diseases. Women and young people, who often work in the markets, are the most affected. The Waste for Cash project solves this problem in an innovative way. The solution is built on 3 key elements, and you already touched upon them. The first element is innovation. The black soldier fly technology shows this in its simple but effective way. The larvae eat organic waste and turns it into useful products like high-protein chicken feed and nutrient-rich fertilizer. The second element is economic empowerment. Women and young people are at the center of this project. They cultivate the larvae and sell the products that support agriculture and livelihoods. This creates new income and makes them more financially independent. For many women, this income helps support their families and adds to their small earnings from the market. The third and final element, which you touched upon, is the partnership. WeEffect is not doing this on its own. We are doing it in collaboration with the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology, and each partner contributes with its expertise, resources, networks to support this project. Together, these 3 elements, innovation, economic empowerment, and partnership, make Waste for Cash a clear example of how circular bioeconomy solutions can build cleaner, healthier, and more resilient food systems. It turns waste into cash, supports local economies, and builds systems that are sustainable for people and the planet. As we look at the future, this model offers a way to make the food system environmentally responsible, economically inclusive, and socially resilient. That was it. Thank you. I forgot to.
We have more slides. No? Thank you very much. You're all excellent timekeepers, I must say. It's a very easy job that I've been chosen to do. And we continue our fascinating trip into what can actually be done with waste. And now we will have turning waste into feed without soy or fish meal. And we will listen to Christian Sjölund from the Axe Foundation. His motto is eat good, do good. He enjoys discussing edible insects, the future food systems, life, big questions, kettlebells, and dance. But at the Axe Foundation, he spearheads the work on the food of the future. Go ahead, Christian, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for that nice introduction. I want to state I had nothing to do with it, although it's very true. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. I hope I will be able to achieve the time, but I'm also going to start with talking about Axe Foundation, the organization I work for. This is what we both love and hate. This is sometimes how our workday looks like. This is a pile of food waste. Axe Foundation is a non-profit, independent sustainability organization. We are philanthropically financed, which enables us to stay very long in problems, enabling us to survive different projects. We always work with the whole value chain. So we have farmers, we have researchers, we have chefs, we have the market. And we gather a minimum viable value chain to see, we gather the actors who have identified the same problems that we have. And those problems are only problems that have really, really high impact if we solve them. And then we try to find a way that where we can find what's in it for them. How can everyone along this value chain win? And I will talk about some of those projects today. I will actually not start with feed, because that has been covered. So I will start with some general knowledge about food waste. 1/3 of food production is lost and wasted through the value chain. Food losses and waste contribute to 10% of the global emissions. Minimizing loss and waste, this is a study done on the EU, should reduce 70% of the European land use and 30% of the CO2 emissions of the food system, while feeding the entire European populations. So there's huge potential. And if that's not enough, we are throwing away money in the trash. This is a picture that I think some of you know, but it's so important that we need to show it. This is one of our guiding principles. The purpose is to always manage and push resources and flows as far up as possible. The most desirable is prevent food waste and loss, of course, and the least desirable is down by energy recovering and biogas production that has become very popular. So this is what we work with. So first I'm going to start with looking in this transform into new food products, and then we're going to go into the feed stuff. So from food to food. Here we have some delicious nutritional goodies. We have a brownie, we have a Caesar salad dressing, we have some bread, and we have sea patties. It looks normal to the human eye, but what hides under is truly amazing. In Sweden, 97% of the beef blood is thrown away. So we have made a brownie which has 20% beef blood in it. So one of those brownies has 25% of the human iron need covered, and it's actually sold right now. Vendors, we eat the roe, but we throw away the fish. That is now used and turned into a really nice Caesar salad, actually. We have the okara from the oat milk production, really big volumes. This can be actually turned into bread and cover most of the hard bread production in Sweden. And then we have some different technologies to extract more meat actually from the same fish. 20% more fish from the same fish is able to extract. So if you're interested in this, please grab me later. Now we're moving on to feed, because we have a tight schedule. Stew, no, stewed. Here we have a sad but very interesting graph. You see the green line, it's not really visible, but it's the planetary boundary for the total food system. So this is what we need to be within in order to have a stable climate, in order to be able to produce as we are used to producing food. This is the expected meat consumption globally. This is the, wow, someone wanted me to be done. This is the global CO2 emissions, this projection. And what this down here, the blue one, is the emissions from feed. So that's the climate emissions from feed. And what's scary and interesting is that climate emissions from feed alone exceeds the planetary boundary for the whole food system in 2050. So this, of course, is a big, big problem, but it's also a possibility for solutions. And this means we need to have a low meat intake, because I know that it's probably many Western countries that needs to reduce their meat consumption. And then the other alternative is to care about what your dinner had as dinner, it's supposed to say there. So it's a high potential. The feed accounts for a lot of the climate impact. We have 75 to 83% of the climate impact from farmed fish comes from the feed, and it's the same for the other animals. And this is getting more and more important because the farmed fish is growing. It's becoming more and more farmed fish. We've reached a point now where more than half of the world's consumed fish is actually from farmed fisheries. And these fish need something to eat, and that's why we need to address this issue. So our foods eat our food. Today, it's some of the most pressing issues is the fish meal. Globally, 23% of wild-caught fish goes straight to the feed. In Sweden, it's actually 78% of the pelagic fishing that is feed fish, or fish feed. Then we have the soy, which we all know can be grown in very sensitive environmental areas of the world. But there's also other crop proteins that can be an issue. We have replaced these with what we call the superheroes. And this connects back to what my colleagues around the table have talked about, how we can use resources that are already out there in order to create new feed ingredients. So we have mycoprotein, fascinating new technology, who is really promising. This particular mycoprotein is grown on the wastewater from the pulp industry, enabling this water to be returned into the production facilities of the pulp factory. We have clams grown in the Baltic Ocean, as Björn showed previously, which is it's very heavy on the nutrients. So this has a possibility to eat that nutrient and reduce the eutrophication. And then we have the lovely black soldier fly that everyone has been talking about. So this connects us all in this room. But we haven't only done research on this, we've worked together with SLU, the Swedish University of Agriculture, and what we did was a sustainable comparison of these feeds, and it showed that it had 30% lower climate emission than the most common feed used in the Norwegian salmon industry. But what's more interesting is that the fish actually tasted better and was viewed as being closer to a wild-caught fish in its texture. So the chefs and the restaurants went crazy about this. Because what we at Axe Foundation do is that it's not only research, we do proof of concept and test it out in the real world. So this is actually the new project we have, where we have raised fish on this feed that I just mentioned, and it has now been served to many different people, and it's being sold in different restaurants, and now we're gonna do the same for chicken, pig, and lane hens. So if you're in Stockholm, you have 1.5 months to buy this future fish. That's everything for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is what I've told you in the beginning. It's full of solutions. Usually we're very saddened by the state of the world, but here we have practical solutions that will benefit the people who are working with them. So thank you very much. And now we have the last presentation, which will give us even more things to think about, because tools to overcome common challenges of practitioners. And we have Christian Zorberg, who is a senior researcher at the Department of Sanitation, Water and Solid Waste for Development at the Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Technology. He leads the Solid Waste Management for Development Research Group. And he's also an adjunct professor at the Department of Energy and Technology for the Swedish and the University of Agricultural Science in Uppsala. And my information is that you see yourself as a social engineer, developing innovations in technology while considering socioeconomic and institutional conditions. And your work focuses on applied development cooperation research with a special interest in the interdisciplinary approach of upgrading infrastructure and services of waste management of low and middle income countries. You have the floor. We are very interested to hear what you're saying, what you go through.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to talk. I have the advantage that many people have already talked about BSF, so I have a comparative advantage that I don't need to explain it to you. We just heard what it does and what the opportunities are, but what we didn't hear about is that people need to know how to operate it. Being a farmer also requires you need to understand the life cycle. You need to know what equipment to use, what to do on a daily process. And if you don't do that correctly, your farm, your insect farm, is also not viable or is prone to failure. So that's what I would like to talk about today, kind of the gaps that we notice. And Madam from Kenya, you mentioned Kenya is an extremely good example. Our research showed that there are over 1,200 BSF insect farmers in Kenya. But we also found that the information sharing among these insect farmers is very, very limited. There is a kind of a feeling of competition, of not sharing, of trying to keep a competitive advantage because you might lose something. And I think that's a very big danger because really in the sector that we are at the moment, or in the phase we are at the moment, really it's an innovation. A lot of exchange needs to happen. This exchange is really important because else all the people are doing the same mistakes. And I think, so that's really where I'd like to talk about which gaps can we fill. And I come from a research organization, very practically oriented. We are trying, with the help of also Swiss government money, trying to fill those gaps in these practical tools. So one aspect, as I mentioned, is this lack of sharing. What we recently did is we launched this BSF Africa WhatsApp community. This is only based on WhatsApp. It has over 700 members. Not all of them are from Africa. There are even people from Asia and Latin America that follow, but the target is towards mainstreaming black soldier fly technology in Africa. We have 4 thematic groups: troubleshooting, funding employment opportunities, matchmaking, and the news channel. Troubleshooting is really there where practitioners interact. You can't really see it. On your left-hand side is just my screenshot from my WhatsApp of what things are discussed. So this is really on the ground. How can I dry larvae? What should I feed them? What happens if I have ants on my farm which are starting to eat the larvae? These are challenges that these farmers really face on a daily basis. You're very welcome to join. We're happy to have more people. We're actually going, in the next month, we're going to be launching a Francophone. There's actually a Francophone channel already launched because we noticed that the English-speaking and the French-speaking communities are quite different. They don't really mix because of language issues. So we're trying to overcome that as well. The second aspect is what I mentioned before, is knowing what to do on a daily basis is extremely important. So this training and operations, this is really on the ground. How do I manage the life cycle of the flies? What do they like? What happens when it's too moist? What times when it's too cold? What materials can I feed them? What can I not feed them? What do I do with pests when I have rats? All these things, these are things that we developed into an e-learning platform. This is on YouTube, so very easily accessible, free of charge, with different modules, as you see here, on all the systems, all the steps in operations of BSF. We go a step further. We have a step-by-step guide, which is like, I always say it's like Jamie Oliver cookbook style. You can really go through the chapters. It tells you, take a spoonful of this, mix some olive oil. Well, that's a Jamie Oliver version. But the same for insect rearing and insect bio-waste conversion. This is kind of on a scale, medium scale operation. What we recently did is doing the same for a simplified approach. The simplified approach is really on a scale of small farm hoarder level, small farm level. So this means a few hours every 2 days, not a full-scale operation, but doing it as a part-time activity besides all the other farming activities. And I think, and this is what we call the simplified black soldier fly approach. We have an abbreviation, which is SIMBA, which fits nicely to the African context, obviously. And here we also define the standard operating procedures. It's important that your operators and or the farmers or the operators, if they're employees, know exactly what they need to do day by day. So we even have checklists that they can check off their activities that they need to do every second day, if they need to clean cages, if they need to wash boxes, all these aspects are mentioned here. Finally, we have an overarching, thanks to a project from CCAC, an overarching toolkit for operators where all this is summarized as well. Now to my last aspect before I close, what we also have is a website, a knowledge hub, where all this kind of practical know-how is summarized. This is just an overview of the table of contents of that website, and just let you read it through. What I would like to focus on those last two bullets. What we have on that site is an Excel-based cost model. So you as an entrepreneur, you as a farmer can look into that. You can plug in how much waste you have. It'll tell you how much money you probably need to invest, how much staff you need if you're going at a certain scale. So, and you can plug in what expected prices you can get for the products, so you can quickly calculate the economic feasibility of your facility. The second is a greenhouse gas emission calculator. It was mentioned before. If we're diverting organic waste from landfills, we are saving enormous amounts of methane. We're reducing methane emissions. That's why also CCAC is interested. These are short-lived climate pollutants. So we're really making an impact. With this tool, it also is Excel-based, you can roughly calculate how much your farm or your facility, if it's an entrepreneurial business, can reduce emissions. It will compare it to your savings on landfill emissions. So directly with that information and with those numbers, you can start going into the market of carbon trading. Voluntary schemes, so which is then of course an important revenue stream for your farm. It also gives the opportunity not only for the operator, but it also gives the opportunity for governments to kind of see how can black soldier fly technology, if I replicate it in my country, how can that contribute to my NDCs? Because if I start implementing that, if I even foster it or subsidize or mainstream it in my country, I can reduce significantly on not only on waste management emissions, but then of course, as was mentioned before, on the feed emissions. So conventional feed emissions, which then of course I replace by insect meal. So just to end here, adding more information every day. So the site is growing. We're always getting more and more stuff online, which hopefully will be a big help to practitioners.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much.
Wow, that's fantastic, really. I mean, I feel I could just go out tomorrow and start my own black soldier fly farm.
You definitely could.
But then I noticed the one item there said safety considerations, and I think I need to read that one first. I think we've had presentations that were incredibly interesting, and you've all been fantastic in timekeeping. So we have time to have a little bit of a dialogue, and also I will open up for questions from the floor. But first I wanted just to ask the participants, it seems as though you've gone thoroughly into your matters. You must have taken all the low-hanging fruit, or is there any easy aspect that you could sort of still just scoop up? And what will be the big challenges to enlarging and getting this really to be an accepted part of any farmer in especially developing countries, how to do this? Anybody? I'm not going to put everybody in the spot, but if somebody wants to address this issue, please go ahead. Yes, please.
I think one aspect is really mainstreaming also the market aspects. We have like for black soldier flies, I'm speaking now for black soldier flies, we have two levels. We have people that are working on it on farm level, and there the commercial aspect is not even so important. People are raising larvae to feed to their chicken. So they're not making the full cost calculation, and and of course then they're also make sure that the product is good because it's their chicken, right? They don't want them to die. Then there's the commercial aspect, and when you get into the commercial aspect, there's really a need for mainstreaming also on policy and legislative level. Feed bills, what are you allowed to feed to livestock, and making sure that insect protein is part of that, making sure that there are no risks that are included. These are aspects, but not only the larvae themselves, but also the frass. In our project in Uganda, we recently were able, or one of our partners, which is operating a BSF company, was able to certify the frass is the residue of the larvae process. So it's the waste that was eaten by the larvae, and what remains is frass. Frass is an excellent fertilizer, very, very similar to compost, has even better nutritional value. And of course, that is also a good product for agriculture. And, but it needs to be in a way certified. So these kind of, I would say, market opportunities from a governmental level, I think that is still a big challenge. There are many gaps. And I think, and we want to make sure that there's not a barrier set in without enough good information then hinders the sector. Maybe stop at that.
Thank you. But are you hopeful that this will sort of slowly proceed forward, or?
We see tendencies. I mean, in Europe, there's a difficulty because there was the mad cow disease, and sometimes, feeding waste to animals, and insects are also animals, there are barriers. These are slowly also kind of being reduced, these barriers, because people are realizing that there is not such a high risk. I think in low and middle income systems, it's more the issue of making sure that they don't even introduced because they're not there yet. So I think that's important.
Please, Björn.
Yeah, but I would like to add on to this also. It's important, and what both Christian said actually, that it needs to be premium products, and it should be looked upon as premium products also. So it's not sort of that it's sort of a waste product that you can sell cheap, because it's not enough money in it. It will always be a costly process to circulate, and that is something that you have to take in mind. And as I said during my introduction, that you have to source the cost from so many different ways and really look into how can we actually finance it. One way is also looking at these carbon credits and so on, but you have to be on so many different markets to actually build a valuable product. But still you have to also look upon it. It's a premium product. It's not sort of a low-cost product, because it will never be.
Yeah, so it's a valuable product, but as we, in all countries, we have the problem that we have different budgets in different areas. So if you do things that will stop people falling down on the sidewalk, that will be one. But you won't notice that you don't have to pay so much in hospital costs. So that's something you have to look at the highest level and really look at it. And I think what you said, that it has to be looked at as a premium product, I think that is also important to keep in mind. Would you, no? And then I'm excited. Please, if you have any questions for our participants, that would be really good. Please just state who you are and state your question. I think, yes, please, Erlingur.
She looked at me. Yeah, my name is Jón Jónasson. I used to be a colleague to Cecilia here in Rome. Today I'm the special envoy for the ocean for Iceland. I just want to highlight that it all has been discussed here, very important, and but everything you have said doesn't not only apply to the global south. Really, the global north, we're probably doing worse than the global south when it comes to waste. I just want to add to the story. Iceland, my country, one product from fish skin has already been so much valuated that one town in Iceland basically lives from the skin. The fillet itself became a different value chain, but the fish skin is used to produce highly valuable band-aids for burning sores. Probably heard about this company, Kerecis. Of course, in the end, bought by the Danes for billions. So my story is just to emphasize that, and we really in Iceland, we are trying to stop to talk about and use the word waste. We like to find a different word that points to the value, because in reality it's not a waste. And for one of our demersal species, cod, haddock and others, we are aiming for 100% fish as a concept, without talking about waste. We just say it's 100%. And the products from cod today, they're probably up to more than 20, 30 products, in addition to the fillet that we thought was the bread and butter for Iceland. In the end now, the bread and butter for Iceland is everything else. Just a short story. I could talk for long, but I just wanted to highlight.
We love listening to you because you contributed a very important piece here. And I think first premium product, and that we stop talking about waste. I think the younger generation will be better at that than we are. Sarah, please.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions from the online participants, if I may. So the first question is, does the quality of the urine matter? This is from Lina Ågren Törnros. Let's say a person consumes specific medications, drugs, or are sick. How would we decide on whose urine to use, and how would we collect this through wastewater?
Not to be too detailed, but today we are actually pouring the medicines out into our drinking water, which I think is a big issue at the start. But generally, I would also say that like cancer therapy medicine should not be let out into the environment. So I think that we actually should collect it and incinerate it, because it's so toxic pharmaceuticals. But as we have a very chemical society, it will always be a lot of sort of chemicals, and especially pharmaceuticals that we are eating. I think it's around 70% of the pharmaceuticals is actually in active form in the urine when you excrete it. But what we're doing today is pumping millions into the sewage treatment plants to remove those pharmaceuticals again. It's not sort of built out fully, but according to the new sort of wastewater legislation or wastewater act on European level, it will be in full Europe, which will be a super big investment, I would say. And at the sewage treatment plant, it ends up 400 liters per person a day, more or less, even if we're only using 150 because of the piping system and so on. And then we have to clean out the 1.5 liter of urine from that 400 liters instead of treating it separately, where you have starting with 1.5 liter, ending up with around sort of 30 milliliters, so a cup smaller than this, or about this cup of concentrate that you can treat easily and remove sort of with the same processes that you do sort of in normal process. So all urine is of high value because we have to deal with it. Have you concentrated, you can process it easier, more easy. And looking upon it as a resource, you want to keep it clean instead of just looking at sort of end of pipe and doing our best to have as little impact on the environment as possible, which is the approach we have today.
Thank you. Very interesting. Please go ahead, Sarah.
There's one question here.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to take the priority. I'm Caroline Ledan from the Grassroots Innovation Assembly for Agroecology, and I just want to highlight in this space that many innovations of this kind, so related to bioeconomy, to the circular economy, and how we actually are embedded in territories, are emerging and are there forever in the territories of the world, and they really need support. So many grassroots innovations do exist and do emerge, but often the policy is not there to support them, or they don't have the infrastructure or the processing unit that they would need. And I think this is what we can understand when working with those organizations that try to give this support, is that there is a lot to do, and there is really marge de manœuvre, a great room for improvement in terms of circular economy if we pay attention to these innovations and if we give the support that they deserve.
Thank you very much. Yes, there are a lot of innovations and they're not all easy to scale up, right? So I don't remember who says SLU or the Royal School of Technology that had imagined a toilet which would take out the antibiotics that you had been taking and thereby doing a big service to the cleaning part. Let's take one more from the net.
Yes, we have a question from Maiha about if we have information on farmers' willingness to pay for the urine-based products. What do they think about the products? What are their preferences?
Okay, now we come to the difficult part.
Yeah, no, but I mean, we are talking quite a lot with farmers. Most farmers are engaged in the environmental impact they have and are really eager to decrease their impact. And then, I mean, all farmers are businesses. I mean, they have to make money, otherwise they will not be a farm. They will just be a park or a forest that is not managed. So, of course, they have to pay for it. And at the same time, if we look at like fertilizer industry, like Yara, they are producing this net zero fertilizer that is a premium price, and it seems to be that also food industry is interested in actually having that kind of products that is having low climate impact. And this kind of fertilizer actually is net zero because it has a negative environmental impact. Yeah, we can send it around. So that actually has sort of a decreasing the impact from agriculture, which is a lot sort of in the discussion. So I would say that is a big driving force for this kind of fertilizers. But at the same time, with that said, the main value is in the avoided pollution. So there is actually the money for actually doing this process.
That's also an important point because that could be a selling point for the final product. So we keep that in mind. And then we have a question from our present representative to FAO, Maria Milivojevic.
I apologize about my voice. It's disappeared after a very loud restaurant yesterday. No, I wanted to pick up a little bit on the market side, and we were talking about is somebody willing to buy it? And really, for all of the presenters, whoever wants to take the floor, the big issue we seem to find all the time is scaling up. And so, if maybe from Kenya or maybe explanation, somebody could or info. What is the acceptance from the market, from companies? Is there interest to take it to market? That would be interesting to listen to.
Yes, great question. I will put you on the spot. No, don't put me on the spot.
Well, I needed my colleague from the acceleration zone here, which is our new space on the first floor. You've been there, right? So that's actually the kind of work they do. I'm in the incubation zone, so it's before the acceleration. So I think she would be very happy to hear from you because it's not only FAO focused. So I think it's also for the countries to use. So it's a great space to come and solve those bottlenecks.
Thank you. Yes, briefly.
Briefly, no, I can only speak from, of course, this project and the experience we have, and what we see is a huge interest. What's the biggest interest is among restaurants. I mean, we worked with the whole value chain, and I think what's important to keep in mind is that the feed companies will produce the feed that someone is willing to pay for. It's not about someone feeling that they should do something good. It's about getting paid to do what's good. And I think what's interesting with this feed that we traded is that it has become really desirable among the restaurants. So the company filleting and distributing the fish, they have been called down, and it's been really a high interest. And it's about creating a story. And I mean, of course, this is a small niche, but if we can get the market, Then the protein producers can do new investments, which will bring down the cost, which will make a bigger market able to take this solution. So I really see these solutions coming out to a wider public shortly.
Thank you very much. I think we come back to the premium product. The fish was better. Please go ahead.
Just maybe a word of caution when you talk about scaling. I often feel, well, depending how you understand scaling. Scaling, in my view, now for the black soldier fly process or technology, is about replication, not about scaling in size. There is often a wish to go industrial, to really go big scale, large factory, large investments. And I think a lot in the, I would say, in the low and middle income countries, I think that is maybe a road, a dead end, I feel. And there's been experience that doesn't work. So I really see the potential, and I think that the replication on small scale, which is adaptable, which is affordable, and can be really localized to local context, that is really what has the potential. And as soon as you start going into more technical, mechanized, industrial, there are so many more pitfalls that you can run into, which I feel very hesitant to recommend.
We won't go there then. We don't want to fall down. 5 words from Björn.
I would just like to add on what Chris was saying, that it's a mismatch of size. I would say that is the biggest challenge, because, I mean, the urine from one person, I mean, it's not, so if we talk urine or the food waste from one person, it's not feeding that many fly larvae. And if you look at in the farm size, you have to collect from so many people to match one farm. I mean, to produce the urine-based fertilizer from one Swedish average farm of 300 hectares, then you have to collect all the urine from 10,000 people during 1 year. And that kind of mismatch, and if we talk to the big fertilizer companies, they say, yeah, you can come back when you produce 100 tons per day of fertilizer. Yeah, so that is, I would say, the commercial challenge, that your mismatch of sizes constantly.
This is very true. It's like the Swedish Systembolaget or small producers. If they cannot deliver enough liters, they're not going to buy it. Thank you very much for all your timekeeping and for your interest, and I've enjoyed this. And now I'd hand over to Fredrik Alpha for close the session.
Thank you very much, Cecilia, and thank you for your stellar job as a moderator and for your insightful introduction of all the participants. Excellent job. I hope you've all enjoyed this side event as much as I have. I found it very interesting, and it has sparked interest and inspired, and I hope it did that for you as well. I feel very privileged to have the chance to listen to all the presenters, and I want to thank you for your engagement, and I really appreciated it. Also a big thanks to the organizers. Great job, and to everyone here in the room, of course, for attending, both here in the room and on Zoom from Sweden. We will certainly continue the discussions on bioeconomy and look forward to explore additional collaborations. So feel free to grab anyone in the team if you want to discuss further. And on your way out, do bring a copy of the publication, or find it online if you're traveling light. With that, thank you very much, and thank you for attending.